Oh, you didn't know? Your ass better call somebody!
The energy revealed. Brooklyn to Queens, reppin' both hoods. Rob and CP, keep it fire, misunderstood. Cheer 'em all loud, let the anthem flow. Mets fans unite at the pregame show. From city sand lights to the skyline greens, it's the heartbeat of Queens, the craziest dreams. Rob hype on the mic, CP's the fire spark. Together they ignite, voices like the park. Fans drift in jerseys, legacy bold. The Metropolitan story forever told. Turnstile spinning, the crowd floods the gates. This is family, no time for debates. Crack of the Batman, the roar never fades. Queens in the blood, it's how champions are made. Cheer 'em all loud, let the anthem flow. Mets fans unite at the pregame show. From city stand lights to the skyline gleams, it's the heartbeat of Queens, the craziest dreams. 7-line swagger, vibes electric and wild. Mets legacy golden since I was a child. Orange crushed skies, let the battle ignite. Ride for the home team till the last fight.
What's up, Mets fans? Welcome back to the Amazing Mets pregame show right here on the channel. Sorry about the background really quickly. Welcome back to the Amazing Mets pregame show, guys. Very frustrating loss for our New York Mets. 4 in a row that we lost. Terrible performance by the New York Mets, and we'll definitely get into that throughout the show. Chris, how are you feeling, buddy?
Frustrating. That's the best word to use. That's the only word that we can use when you're up in a ball game against division rivals that have had your number, for the last couple of years. And it's always going to be a fight in the NL East, 4-1 game. And it ended up being a walk-off win for the Braves in their home ballpark. So many things that could have been avoided, so many things that were preventable that could have led to the Mets winning that ball game that just simply did not, end up being the case. A lot of things to fix on the field mistake-wise, and a lot of things to fix for David Stearns roster-wise as this Mets team looks to preserve their NL East lead. The only good news from yesterday was that the Phillies also lost, so the NL East lead is still 2 games. So they got to snap this losing streak, and it has to start tonight, but their backs are against the wall with this pitching matchup being Paul Blackburn versus Chris Sale, the reigning 2024 Cy Young Award winner. So it's going to be a tough one, but that's why we're here to talk about it.
Yeah, the House of Horrors continue. We talked about slaying the dragon. I talked about it yesterday on the show, and it felt like they did. It felt like that Truist Park in Atlanta wasn't going to be the debt trap that we're so very much used to. If it was here, Turner Field, didn't matter. It was just Atlanta being that point. And it seemed like the 8th inning is like the kryptonite for the New York Mets when it comes to the Atlanta Braves and being in Truist Park. It's just has been a problem. It continued yesterday when everything looked like it was just roses. Everything was working good. David Peterson was outstanding, pitching so well. The Mets got a couple of breaks, a ball that dropped in and got us 2 runs. Soto hitting the home run in the first, just getting everything rolling here. And it seemed like it was leading towards a Mets victory, and then just a snap of a finger, and it all went downhill from decisions, from management, from decisions from players on the field, from base running blunders, just all in all, everybody is to blame in this situation. And I want to start with David Peterson because
Wait, Rob, before you go, I think the Mets lineup, a lot of people are going to start freaking out. The Mets lineup is wrong on here because Terens is in today. Mauricio is in today.
that's my fault.
I think this is the wrong graphic, but
Yes.
yes.
Can you talk for a second? I just
Yes, quick fix, because I know
Yeah.
that a lot of people are going to lose their minds seeing Francisco Alvarez back in there. Trust
I'll be
me,
right
Mendy wouldn't make that mistake. So this is the wrong lineup. Rob's going to go fix this lineup real quick. But, there's a lot of talking points that I'm just going to pick up where Rob left off as he fixes the lineups here on the graphic. There's a lot of things that, as I mentioned in my intro, that the Mets could have done right, because this is such a preventable loss, as has been a lot of games that the Mets ended up losing in their 28 games lost this season. Um, and it's just like close ball games like this that matter, and they end up coming to bite you, as we have seen in seasons past. Like, if the Braves are able to go on a hot streak here before the All-Star break and they somehow cut the division lead 5 games, 6 games, and you're looking at, being only up 6 or 7 games instead of the 12, 13, what it was, these games are the ones that you look back on. You're like, wow, that one really got away when it shouldn't have. So many things. You can talk about the base running blunders from Pete Alonso, Juan Soto multiple times, just giving the Braves defense multiple outs. I mean, the Juan Soto pickoff, I understand that it was kind of a weird play with the Acuna situation, right field on Pete Alonso's ball that he hit to right field. And, Juan Soto he read the ball really well and he did what he was supposed to do. But it was clear as day that he caught that ball. Acuna did in right field. So I know what Juan Soto was saying in the postgame, trying to see what the call was going to be from the umpire, but everybody knew that that ball was caught. And so to get doubled off in that scenario is not really a great look. You can talk about the decision to keep David Peterson in. You let him start that 8th inning. Okay. He just threw a complete game shutout. Like, I understand the decision. But for me, you got to have a quick hook in that scenario, right? The first batter gets on, he's out of the game. And that was the case. And not only did Mendoza give Peterson the first batter, he also gave him the second batter, and we know how that ended up. You could talk about the switch call from Francisco Alvarez when he was talking to the media about Reed Garrett's at bat to Marcell Ozuna, bases loaded, 2 outs, changing a fastball that Reed Garrett wanted to a splitter that got crushed down the line for the game, tying 3 RBI double. And then everything, like, the momentum was clearly shifted at that point, but then you could just tell that it was going to be a terrible game execution wise in the last inning. And the reason why you could tell that is because we had the bottom of the order that has done nothing outside of Tyrone Taylor in recent games coming up at the plate, even with the ghost runner on. Horrible at bats. Jared Young being made to look like a fool against the changeup of Raisel Iglesias, strikes out on 3 pitches, can't even move a runner over. Francisco Alvarez also strikes out. Ronnie Mauricio, who's hitting 184, something like that, has been looking really bad on breaking balls, pops out to end the inning. And I know Rob is going to go on, in on this team just as much as I am, because I can just tell by his face he's super frustrated, as we all are. The play with Francisco Alvarez, Brazaban was kind of on the way to potentially working around that inning and maybe forcing the 11th inning, but all of that went to shit, for lack of a better term, when Francisco Alvarez decided to just make the irrational decision. That was what his mind told him to do in that split second. But anybody, I didn't play catcher, and even I know this. If you played catcher at any level, this is something they teach you. You see a runner out there in no man's land getting caught in between the middle of the bases, you start running at him and make him pick a base that he's going to commit to. Because if that's a classic base, I've been in that situation as a base runner. The best thing that I can see is the catcher going full motion to one particular base, and I know I got to go to the other side, and I'm probably going to be safe because Francisco Alvarez has to throw it all the way across the diamond, and then that second baseman or shortstop, whoever's catching the ball, has to throw it all the way to third base. And it's just not going to happen at that point. And Mendoza, I understand what he's doing in the post game. He's not throwing Alvarez under the bus. I understand that young player, you don't want to ruin the confidence. But everybody and their moms knows that Mendoza is talking out of his ass in the post game and saying, I'm okay with that decision by Francisco Alvarez. I hope and I pray that Mendoza said something different to Alvarez as a teaching moment than what he told the media. And I'm sure that's the case. But so many just avoidable mistakes. And man, Rob, I don't even know. Like, I just a synopsis of everything that basically went wrong from the 8th inning on. So sorry about that.
Yeah. So sorry about the lineup, guys. I just wanted to fix that. So, people wouldn't, destroy Mendoza, even though he's going to get destroyed right now, as Chris already did. And I'm going to do. I was going to start with the David Peterson situation about not walking the guy in the 9 hole to start that inning. And that kind of started the bad decisions by Carlos Mendoza. But you're 100% right with the Alvarez situation. This is baseball 101. This is elementary school type of understanding of baseball. You throw to the advanced base, even if you don't run at him, which you should do regardless. You're supposed to run to the runner, right? Make him be indecisive. You run towards him, so he has to make the decision. And depending on where he starts running, that's the base you go to. But when he dead stops and you don't run, okay, problem number one. But the problem number two that can happen is to throw to the previous base he currently was. That makes no sense. The worst case scenario is that if you throw it to third and he's already running back to second base, no harm, no foul, right? You don't have the guy, the win and run at third base with less than 1 out. Like, that was the game right there. Besides the terrible at bats in extra innings and the bad decisions by management and the base running, that was the game right there. That's a situation where we talk about this all the time about mental preparedness with certain players on this team. They don't plan as a baseball player, as a fielder. You have to plan prior to a pitch or prior to an at bat the scenarios that could happen in certain situations. And even before that ball got away from him a little bit and he lost it, he backhanded the ball that was right in front of him. It hit the dirt, but all he had to do was turn the glove over and get on his knees. And that play probably would have never happened. That's the other thing. So anybody who wants to, where are all the Alvarez supporters that talked about his framing and stop complaining about him because of his framing. The reason why he's the way he is behind the plate is because he absolutely tries to frame everything. And he backhands balls that he shouldn't be backhanded. You cannot do that with runners on base, especially when there's a win and run in scorer position. You can't do that. You got to get down. And if the ball hits you in a certain angle and the spin of the ball just takes the ball in opposite way, that's on the pitcher, right? You did what you had to do, but clearly he didn't block the ball the way he should have. He didn't put his body in front of it. He put the glove in front of it, backhand. That does not work. He's done this many times before. It was a problem last year. It was a problem since he came up. That's number one. Number two, not knowing the situation. You're a catcher. You're supposed to be the smartest guy on the field, right? You're like the defensive captain behind the plate, right? You make all the, you make all the signals when, depending on if you're going to go to third base, if the pitch is going to cover, or, if there's going to be a wheel play going on, if there's a bunt, you give the call, right? You are the captain of that infield. And you're just stupid in baseball sense. Like you look like an idiot playing a game of baseball. It just shows the lack of awareness that you have. So you weren't prepared in that situation and preparing yourself for a situation like that. And then you find out during the Reed Garrett pitch that ultimately ended the game that they were both indecisive. Well, you know what? I'm blaming the pitcher and I'm blaming the catcher in that situation because somebody's got to call timeout in Alvarez's situation. Call timeout if you're both indecisive. There's no reason why anybody's throwing a pitch that's indecisive. Or Reed Garrett steps off and calls Alvarez to the mound. Do that. That's another thing. Not only is Alvarez had bad at-bats, the defense is terrible. The awareness and preparing for the situation that could possibly happen in all scenarios, because you're supposed to be one of the smartest guys on the field on defense, because you got to know every situation, and you just clearly didn't know it there. And to not know that you have to throw to the advanced bag if you don't run after a runner, because he clearly panicked. When he lost the ball, he panicked. As soon as he threw the ball, the first thought was probably letting the ball go without even thinking. The guy was so far between second and third that he was in no man's land. It wasn't that he was closer to third or closer to second. He was in no man's land. All you had to do was throw to third base, and worst case scenario, he would have actually been safe at second if that was the case. I would have still been pissed because that could have been the second out, and we might have got to an 11th inning. But it's just the indecisiveness that continues to haunt this team with the mental preparedness in certain situations. And this is the situation here where you need to send him down. He needs to get his mind right before you worry about what he does behind the plate, what his back does. He has to mentally prepare for games, because it doesn't seem like he does that anymore. Everybody used to say, "Oh, look at the pitcher's ERA with him behind the plate." Remember we talked about that last year, how important he was. Oh yeah, but he's so good behind the plate because the pitchers love him and the ERAs are so good and they look really well. But he wasn't helping with the bat, and that's basically his calling card. And now it's like he don't do nothing well, and yet there's still some excuses for him when it comes to it. And then Mendoza's comments is just idiotic. Like, I understand you want to protect your player, but we saw Mendoza call out his players through the media. Or even if he didn't directly call him out, says, yeah, I spoke to him. Didn't seem like that might have been the case. And I hope it was, like you said, Chris, I hope it was. But I'm not sure. You know who that sounded like last night? Aaron Boone. His former, compadre with the Yankees. Because Aaron Boone listened last night. Make every excuse under the book to every single player that the media asked about. Mendoza made that excuse, and it sounded like Aaron Boone. Now, I'm not going to say Mendoza is a terrible manager or he lost his way. I'm not saying that. But it's clear, especially with little things that should be just common sense in baseball. The elementary school things in baseball should not be forgotten, should not have been make mistakes that ultimately cost you a game. And it did last night. And with the walk starting with Peterson in the eighth, Mendoza should have pulled him there. 100%. Mm-hmm. Bring in Reed Garrett or whoever you were going to. I mean, it ended up being Garrett, but bring up anybody you wanted to bring in. But Peterson was clearly a little off. Like, he didn't even throw a fastball in the 3-2 count to a 9-hitter that was batting, 170? Like, that's another thing. Who decided on that pitch? I don't think we got that answer. Was it Alvarez? Because it seems like the pitchers are kind of relying on Alvarez to make or break certain calls here. Because what it sounded like with Reed Garrett and Alvarez, that Alvarez said he called the pitch and that he was determined to throw that splitter again. So Reed Garrett didn't have a say and went with his catcher. Like, Alvarez shouldn't have that much power for a guy that has not been good behind the plate. And I'm sorry to say, if you're the pitcher on the mound, if you don't feel confident in the pitch you're throwing, don't throw it. At least that's what I think, Chris. I mean, it's crazy to me.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, I think that there's certain plays that are like very nuanced in baseball that, okay, some people will disagree on. I think the collective fan base and everything that we're talking about right now, like there's some sort of consensus, like, yeah, that was pretty bad from this team. And it's the small stuff. It's the small stuff that and like Truman is saying in the chat, it's the small stuff that has been costing this team baseball games, from hitting with runners in scoring position to whatever Alvarez is doing behind the plate to not having confidence in a certain pitch or even walking a specific batter before you get up into the top of the lineup. And that stuff just needs to fix itself, and that needs to be corrected. And it would inspire more confidence from me to know that Mendoza, like you said, last year, he was saying, I talked to him about it. He understands. I would hope he's not going to make the same mistake again. That's even a better answer than just saying, you know what I mean? Like, that's not even really, that's holding a player accountable, not throwing him under the bus, but holding him accountable and not making excuses for him, which was what Mendoza was basically sounding like yesterday. So we'll see what happens. There's a lot of stuff that goes on in the clubhouse that we don't know, the conversations that happen that we don't know. I think that these guys hopefully understand that they need to play better. But for me, also the big thing is and I guess when we transition to talk about this game right now, love what Mendoza did with Jeff McNeil. And I talked about it on my video today. I released it around noon. We talked about the biggest weakness right now for the New York Mets, which is the bottom of the lineup that has no firepower, no power in general, let alone getting on base. And the only guy that is doing that and is saving them is Tyrone Taylor, who had a 3 RBI game yesterday. He had a hell of a game. And what goes unnoticed, because it was the game-winning play for the Braves, is that he went a long ways away to go and get that ball in center field off the bat of Austin Riley. He just plays hard, and he hustles, and he's a veteran. And he's a true center fielder. And I noticed that. And so did Mendoza, because I just saw a snippet of a tweet of him talking about that before tonight's game. But what I will say is that I love Jeff McNeil in the 8 hole. And I think that, and what I said in my video, if you missed the video, check it out. It's in the description of my chat right now, in my stream right now. It's in the description. Go check it out after the stream, before the game. But first of all, you can't play Ronnie Mauricio as long as these guys are up here at the major league level. Ronnie Mauricio and Francisco Alvarez cannot be a part of the same lineup together. That's just two automatic outs that are waiting to happen, the bottom of the order that you're stacking, and it costed you yesterday not getting a run home in the 10th inning. That's first and foremost. But lengthening the lineup outside of Tyrone Taylor, who can help the bottom of the lineup? That's Jeff McNeil. It could be Luis Torrens as well, but I think that Jeff McNeil, the way that he's swinging the bat recently over the past couple of weeks, is the better option. So I like to see Jeff McNeil sandwiched in the middle there between Tyrone Taylor and Ronnie Mauricio. I like that. But the glaring thing about this game, Rob, is the pitching matchup. I mean, Paul Blackburn looked lost last outing out of the bullpen against the Nationals, almost cost the Mets the game alongside Max Kranick before Edwin Diaz had to come in a very unfortunate situation and kind of redeem the Mets. How does he bounce back as the starter today? We know how his outing went against a pretty good lineup. His first outing back against the Dodgers. Does he have that magic again? Because the Braves' record does not show the type of team that they are. They will linger around this season. We're talking about the Phillies because they're 2 games below the Mets, and the Braves are all the way down, 12 under after last night. But we need to be talking about the Braves because this type of series is one that can energize them. They go in, beat the Mets and take the series, let alone sweep the series. And that's all the motivation they need to say, I guess 10 games really isn't that big of a deal. And then the lead starts dwindling. You need to stop that momentum. You need to even the series up today. It's a very tough task, especially when we're talking about lack of offense at the bottom of the order against Chris Sale, the reigning Cy Young. Very tough, tall, lanky, deceptive lefty on the mound. And it's going to be a really tough game. If I was a bettor, I see some people trying to just, see what the chances are of the Mets winning this game. Given the last 4 games, given the pitching matchup, I would give the Mets probably not a good chance, but that's what good teams do. When nobody's giving you a chance to win this game, you go out there and prove something. But what's going to need to happen for the Mets to win this game is that the Mets bats, they were alive and well early in the game, and they just took off the rest of the game. Like, they took the whole rest of the game off. You get early run production, and then they scratch home 1 run up until the end of the game. After that point, you need to apply consistent pressure. It's like they think 4 runs is going to win you a ball game every time with the way that this pitching has looked like for the beginning of the season. How about we go out there, score some early runs like the Mets did yesterday, and then tack on a few more? Let's score 6, 7, 8 to make it a no-doubter. I don't know. I don't know how they're going to get it done, but they need to get it done. They need to get it done. And Chris Sale is a tough guy to do it against.
Yeah, they need to find a way. And, it's been the trend of the season for this offense, right? They'll score runs early and they won't score anything between like inning 4 through 7. And, it gives their opponent time to come back in a ball game. And that's what it seemed like happening yesterday. Now, I don't think anybody thought that David Peterson was just going to, just lose it in the 8th inning. He had 82 pitches. I mean, he was rolling. I mean, but yeah, I like it's just a continued issue with this offense. And I talked about this yesterday before I get into about the pitching matchup and the lack of confidence I have in Paul Blackburn and Chris Sale being the reigning Cy Young winner. The GM of the Braves was asked today on, I think, the Braves radio or their sports radio, Anthopoulos. They asked him, they go, if you don't turn this around, are you going to be sellers? He said, absolutely not. So were you talking about how they're going to linger around and be around and they're going to find their way back into, relevance, is just a confidence booster from their GM saying we're not selling. And this is on June 18th, by the way. So not only now, if the Mets would have won yesterday and the Braves would have lost and they would have won, the Mets would have won 5-1 or 4-1, would Anthopoulos came on the radio and said that? I don't know. Maybe he felt a little confidence after that win yesterday. But that is a guy that's showing confidence in his team. That's 7 games under 500 and now 12 games out of a division. And I think around 7 or 8 games out of a playoff spot. They know how important this stretch is. And the scary thing is what I talked about yesterday was the Mets need to bury this team. There needs to give doubt within the organization about being sellers, about trading certain bullpen arms, certain starters that might be on their expiring contract, stuff like that. That's what the Mets have to do. They failed yesterday in just terrible decision making, terrible baseball all around over the last 2 innings. And now today, why even yesterday was even more frustrating was because you hit Schwellenbach, which you never have. Peterson was pitching outstanding. Everything was looking like roses. And you needed to win that game because of the fact that Paul Blackburn is pitching today against the reigning Cy Young Award winner. That was why yesterday's game was so important. Not the fact that how we lost or did we lose it. It was the fact that we just lost because of the fact that look at the game tomorrow and meaning today with Paul Blackburn. There's no guarantee Paul Blackburn can get out of the second inning, let alone pitch 5 innings and a couple of runs, and give us a chance to win a ball game. Like, this is a situation where, you didn't use a lot of bullpen yesterday, which is probably the only good thing that happened at the end of that game, because you're probably going to have to use a lot of it today. This is the opportunity, as I talked about yesterday, where the offense needs to break out. The offense needs to take control over a ball game. We've talked about this every series, almost every pregame show. The offense needs to take over a game. The offense needs to take over a series. It's about damn time. And you know what? I honestly thought they were going to do that early in yesterday's game. For whatever reason, it's been a trend that they can't do anything in the middle of a ball game. It is just annoying how bad they are in the middle of a game offensively. This team needs the offense to pick up the pitching. 2 injuries down. McGill is out now. I know nobody's, is gonna, bang their table because McGill is on the injured list now. But you're losing your depth rather quickly, along with your actual starters in your rotation, with no guarantee of Minaya and Montas actually gonna, be healthy, come back and pitch well. Like, you're losing your depth, you're losing your rotation, over a week already, and now you're on the verge of having Paul Blackburn in this rotation where you can possibly lose the series already against the Braves in game 2. That's why yesterday was so frustrating all around. But because of the situation today, where there's probably not a lot of confidence in Paul Blackburn, and we don't know what we're going to get from the Mets offense because they've been so inconsistent, that's why yesterday's game was so important. Because if you won yesterday, you're kind of playing with house money today, right? Yeah, you want to win the ball game. You're probably going to feel a little confident after yesterday's win, but there's no confidence right now. I like the lineup, but there is none. This has been an inconsistent lineup. Paul Blackburn is inconsistent. We don't know what he is. And I'm not sure if I'm going to turn on this game at 7:30 and feel confident that the Mets have a chance to win this ball game. Do they have a chance? Sure, it's baseball. But I'm not as confident as I was yesterday, because I was very confident going into yesterday's game. Today, I'm just not. Maybe they surprise me. I hope they do.
I hope they do too. I mean, my confidence isn't really up there either with you, and usually I'm the one that's kind of talking you down from the ledge, and like, this team's all right, this team's all right. I guess the good thing is that Juan Soto looked really good at the plate yesterday. We could say that Juan Soto scorched a couple of baseballs. The base running blunders need to stop, though. I mean, from everybody, but from Juan Soto as well. There's nothing really else to say at this point. There's nothing really else to say at this point. That was a completely winnable game, and you gave a team that is basically and has been in the gutter life. And that's exactly what you don't do against a Braves team that has come back and taken a division from you before, right? In eerily similar timelines.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. You got to get it done. And there's really no excuses, though, because, we injury this, injury that. The Braves are also dealing with an immense amount of injuries as well, especially on the pitching side. You know what I mean? And nobody's feeling sorry for them. So that's not going to be an excuse no matter what. The one thing that I saw a report of this, of course, I don't know the source. I don't know where they got this information from. And Caps. I mean, that's not Caps. That's a great opinion, but that shouldn't even be an opinion because we need another bat. I mean, hands down, that's not a question. I mean, we need another bat. This lineup, especially towards the bottom, it's not gonna win you a World Series. They need a bat, even with Vientos coming back. But what I was gonna say is that you know, the report that I read stated the Mets are really hoping that Frankie Montas gets his head out of his ass in his last AAA start because they really want to insert him into this rotation. And if we're watching a guy that has a 9+ ERA across high A ball and AAA in his rehab assignments through like 4 or 5 starts already, and we're hoping that he shows us something competent in his last rehab outing to put him into a major league rotation, that's where I get concerned. That's where I get concerned. Because that's desperation. That smells like desperation to me.
Chris, why is that? Why are they so desperate of Montas coming back in this rotation? Right? It's not the $17 million we're giving them. It's the fact that this rotation is not good enough, as I've been saying all season.
Well,
right?
without Senga for sure. Without Senga for sure.
Yeah. Well, even with Senga, to be quite honest with you, like I just don't trust this rotation. There's too many question marks all throughout this rotation of future performance and past injuries. I just don't trust it. I really don't. And, that's why Stearns is talking about Montas and, praying for Manaea to be, what he was last year coming back from injury, even though they're going to, put the baby, the diaper on it and treat him like a baby early on, which I understand. But I don't trust this rotation. I never have. And I know they were going to come back to earth a little bit, but, they're cracking here. And clearly the organization and David Stearns is doing the same thing, right? It's starting to become a panic situation that they're protruding in through the media, with Stearns acting like Montas, is going to be the end all be all here, like he's going to be the savior of this rotation. It sounds like that's what he sounded like when he spoke about it. Like it seemed like, Montas pitches well, you got to get him right back in this rotation. He's not an ace. What is he really going to provide except maybe a little bit of stability when it comes to pitching innings pitched, maybe, hopefully. But other than that, there's no confidence in that either. So, like, that's my issue. Like, Stearns sounded like he's desperate for Montas and obviously Manaea as well. But isn't that on Stearns for not doing the right thing for the rotation? And regardless of what names you want to throw out there of who should have been in the rotation and who they should have got, the fact of the matter is there was people available. And you went the cheaper route, or not just the cheaper route, but guys that had injury history as well. And you put yourself in a situation. So there's nobody to blame but himself. I don't want to hear panic from him. You made those decisions. You weren't panicking about the rotation when you were signing Clay Holmes and, bringing in Montas for $17 million because you didn't want to give anybody any more years that are over 30 and bringing guys that are better. That's on David Stearns. So I don't want to hear it from him. I want action. That's not action. And maybe he can't do anything right now, but you know what? I seen the Giants make a big move. I seen the Dodgers bring in a big reliever. And this is all in June. Oh, they got a reliever. I forgot who it was, but they made a move to get a reliever. Because Tanner Scott wasn't pitching well. I forgot his name, but they made a move. Like there's clearly moves that are out there that if you put something together and be proactive, teams are willing to do it. Yeah. It seems like it's the case. And I don't know if David Stearns sounds desperate and doesn't want to make that proactive move because it seems like he's very diligent and just, moves at a snail's pace with situations like that. But there's clearly moves to be had early on before the deadline. A month and a half until the deadline. So I don't know with David Stearns. I just don't.
Well, he's gonna need to get busy for sure. Like he's gonna need to start hitting the phones, and that's an understatement. There's talent to trade away. I mean, there's young guys to try to convince another team to take on, even given their lack of performances here as of late, to try to give away. I don't know. At this point, do you think that Alexis Diaz?
Oh, that's right.
Oh, that's who that's who the Dodgers got. Yeah. I wanted Alexis Diaz too, by the way. I know that he wasn't having really a good season up until that point, but he's got good stuff. Obviously, the brother Edwin Diaz. But listen, there's moves to be had. What do you think? Do you think that at this point, given what the Mets need, do you think Vientos is off the table?
I mean, in my opinion, I don't think anybody should be off the table. I think everybody should be available. Whoever the team that we're trading with wants, you give. Because, again, we're just going to give Vientos to third base for last year's performance? I'm not. I'm just
No
not.
chance. No
No,
chance.
like how is that? Like, haven't I got killed on my own channel about talking about the past, worry about the future? Well, let's talk about talk about the present. Well, here's the present. Vientos hasn't been good. He looks like a shell of himself. Right? Why can't that be a one-hit wonder? Why can't that be just the luck of the draw? And that's not really Vientos. And it just happened that he hit a lot of fastballs last year that they were throwing him. Now they're throwing a lot of breaking balls. He has not adjusted. He can't hit them. Same thing with Mauricio, right? He was hitting over 460 something on fastballs in the minors. You know what they're not throwing him in the majors? Fastballs. You know what he's not laying off? Every other pitch. So, like, every one of these guys, I don't care who it is. I don't care who you, anybody, or myself like. I don't care at this point. Get somebody in here who's established that could actually take a job. Like, I just don't. This is what I just don't understand. Like, we're playing these games with these prospects that nobody's taking the job. It's 3 months into the season. You had Vientos, who came up last year, took over the job, and it was like, great, somebody finally took a job that was open, that was available, that got the opportunity, and we were excited about that. Now it's kind of a juggling act. You got 4 guys that can't take a position that is open, clearly open. When you think somebody's taking it, they take a huge step back. So in my opinion, Chris, I don't care. At this point, I don't care. Even if it's the guy I want here the most, they're not performing. And you can't wait for these guys to figure it out while you're trying to win a pennant.
Yeah. You know what? One thing as a Mets fan that I don't subscribe to as a Mets fan, because we've seen this not under David Stearns, but in seasons past that I know has got you all riled up in the past as well, and rightfully so, is the notion that you are going to add at the deadline by guys coming back from the IL. We're talking about Brooks Raley, who I see people talking about in the chat, who will be a very good reliever for this team coming back, I think, and it'll be a huge boost, but you need to add more, right? We're talking about Kodai Senga coming back around that timeline as well. 5 weeks was the baseline minimum that was reported by, I think, John Heyman the other day about Senga coming back from his hamstring injury. You're talking about Montas, Manaea, etc. Like these guys that are coming back, I don't care. You need more. These guys, even with these guys, you got a good team, a really solid team, but you need more. You need more. And so that's why I always thought, even going back into the offseason, that the Mets and David Stearns understood the baseline team that they had, but they were really waiting until the deadline to make that not splash move per se, but things get tricky in other organizations, and the price could either be driven up or you could get a steal of a deal like the Giants did, and they get a superstar for not, I wouldn't say pennies on the dollar, right? Because what they sent back was legit, but they did not, in fact, send their best position player over in that deal, right? I don't even think they sent their best pitcher in that deal over. They sent a really good one in Jordan Hicks, but like it was a pretty good deal for the San Francisco Giants, and all they had to do is eat the rest of the contract, which we'll see how that plays out because that's a really large contract.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I said it in the offseason, and until David Stearns proves me wrong, I'll say it again, Rob. I think he's going to do something. I think he's going to make that move that we need this deadline, and I think that we will be okay. 4 games, could be 5. Teams go through these stretches, but you hate to see it with winnable games. I mean, if the Mets went 2-2 over these last 4, like they were supposed to, giving away that first game against the Tampa Bay Rays in that series, and also the first game in the Braves series, things would be a whole lot different. We probably wouldn't be talking like this. Maybe we would, maybe we wouldn't. I don't know. But like, it just pisses me off to no end when you lose games that you are supposed to win and you piss these games away with just stupid mistakes. Stuff happens. Stuff happens. I understand it. I don't know. Yesterday left me a little bit speechless. So hopefully they come back and prove all of us wrong and give us that confidence back. Because all it takes is one win. Tonight, one win,
Absolutely.
it's confidence back. Okay, go win the series tomorrow. But it's like, you don't want to give a team like the Braves momentum. You don't want to do it. And that's what I'll say.
Correct. And I wanna bring up a comment that David's talking about, saying that I was clueless and that we're going through a little bad streak. This is not about the bad streak. This is not about the 4 game losing streak, right? One, it's the way they played, right? That is, this is not a stretch. This is little things that good teams shouldn't be making consistently. They've been making, we've been talking about these mistakes, these little mistakes that they've made in series throughout the season, not just during this little stretch, right? I understand a 4 game losing streak isn't going to be the end all be all. I don't think this is going to derail the season. I've never said that. But there's little mistakes that when you face teams, especially a desperate team like the Braves or really good teams, that you're not going to get away with. Like, those games are going to matter, especially division games. These games matter so much because it can give the momentum to that division rival. It can keep teams with the confidence that they might have lacked in this series. Like, it's the way they played. And it's not just one part of the team anymore. It's the entire team. The defense has been failing itself over the last week or so. Not even just, even during the winning streak. There was games, me and Chris talked about it, that I don't even know how this team won those games because they made mistakes, even during their winning streak. So I've been bringing, that's why people call me Mr. Negative, because even while we're winning, I'm bringing up the issues with this team. Nobody likes to hear it, but when we're losing, everybody now wants to talk about it. And now you say that I'm clueless. It's not the case. I've been saying this the whole time. You just don't want to listen. And if you don't want to listen, I can't help you in that aspect. So unfortunately, the Mets are proving certain things that we've talked about, not just myself. Me and Chris talked about, Zach talked about, other content creators that I listened to. We're all talking about the same thing here. We're not saying anything different. There has been issues with this team. We talked about runners in scoring position. We talked about that they've not played really great defense this season. They're pitching. We all expected for them to take a step back, but we were all hoping that the offense would take over like we all thought they would. None of that has happened with the offense. The pitching is exactly what we all thought was going to happen. Some might have been worse than others, and myself including. That I think they'd be worse than others thought, but I still think they were going to be middle of the pack type of rotation, which you can get through a season. But that's why you have a trade deadline. Like, things that have been issues the entire season, not just during this little rut that we're in. This rut, I'm not too concerned about. It takes one win to change that. But the issues we've been talking about all season continue to lose us games that we should not have lost. The 5-1 lead against the Rays. Yesterday's game 4-1. These are games that are well in hand. That mistakes cost, decisions and mistakes cost us games that we had in hand late in ball games. You can't tell me that I'm just saying this now and that I'm clueless. I'm sorry, because we've all been talking about this. Just because, it might sound terrible now because we're in a losing rut, it's a fact. So it's okay to criticize a team, right? If you don't want to criticize the team when things are not going well, or when they're even going well, and look at the little cracks there is in this roster and the way they've played, because we talked about this, how many more wins they could have had by losing games like yesterday, losing games like on that Friday against the Rays. There's been about a handful, maybe a little bit more, that they should have easily won. But mistakes, little mistakes, not big mistakes, little mistakes, like little base running blunders, a defensive play where you have no idea where you throw the ball. Those are little elementary school things that should not happen within a professional baseball team. And they've consistently done that throughout this whole season. And because one part of the team stepped up in the pitching early on in the season is why we are where we are right now, 45-28, and in a good spot, not a great spot, a good spot. So if we had this little rut, which we are in right now, it's not going to derail a season, but it shows what happens when you make those mistakes consistently, that they're eventually going to catch up to you. Sorry, Chris, I just had to rant on about that.
No worries. No worries. I was just responding back on X. About the lineup today. Listen, listen, this is what I'm going to say about the lineup. I mean, everybody understands that Jeff McNeil is hitting 8 today because there's a lefty on the mound. Like, this is what Mendoza has perpetually done. He's playing lefty-righty matchups. Like, it's a stupid philosophy. I think it's always been stupid. I think it's useless. I think it's useless.
That's
But
why he
this
didn't
is
go
the
to Marte
lineup.
yesterday.
What was that?
That's why he didn't go to Marte yesterday over Young in the 8th.
Right. Yeah. So let's trust a guy like Jared Young, because he's a lefty, over a guy like Starling Marte in a crucial situation. Like, that's why I don't subscribe to the stupid lefty righty philosophy. But they want to keep doing it. They'll always do it. And that's a learning point right there. Like, you would think, but there's no learning though, because they're gonna keep doing this for some odd reason. That's gonna keep happening, right? Marte definitely should have been in that game yesterday. I know that he's not great righty, right? I know what the split numbers are for Marte over the past few years, this season, whatever have you. I understand that. But, like, you're telling me that you have more confidence in Jared Young than Starling Marte in that situation. And this is coming from a guy that doesn't really
Right.
believe in Starling Marte. How many times have I been, not on the Starling Marte bandwagon? So this whole moving Jeff McNeil 8 and 5 and Nimmo 2 and then 5 based off of lefty righty, it's just so overplayed. But that being said, like, I like this lineup and I like Jeff McNeil helping out the bottom of this lineup, given that there's a lefty on the mound coincidentally, because this is exactly the lineup that was needed, especially to try to mitigate Ronnie Mauricio. Hopefully he gets it going today. You never know when he's going to snap out of it, but, like, he hasn't got it going yet. So I like this lineup. And that's really the positive that we can go into. That's like the one thing that I'm holding on to them. Like, this is a good lineup. Please let it work against Chris Sale. Let's go win a game. And let's hope that Paul Blackburn does not have a version of, of himself of what he did against the Nationals. And that's basically the formula tonight. An hour, 59 minutes now until game time. I don't know. We'll see, Rob. We'll see.
Yeah, what a confident bunch we are, guys. Yes. But this is like the lineup. I like the lineup tonight. Like, I agree with you, Chris, in regards to the bottom of the lineup. But just to piggyback of why last night was so stupid was the fact that you had guys on the bench, particular Marte, who is more of a contact hitter at this point, not a power guy. Yes, he strikes out, but in that bottom of the order, when you just needed the base hit basically to at least get a one run in, you had a bunch of free swingers that have consistently looked bad throughout the entire night, and you made no adjustment to pinch hit for any of them. And those are guys that have high strikeout rates at this point right now, that are free swingers that don't put the bat on the ball often. And yeah, they can give you a chance of a home run, but you didn't need it at that point. You needed the guy to have contact. And that's why Marte made sense. And I do hope that, I don't know any reason why Mendoza kept Young in that spot other than matchup, which we both hate. And it just didn't make sense at that point. Like, why are you putting up a guy that, has not really looked good? Yes, he provides a little bit of pop, but you need contact in that spot. At the very least, you need somebody to move that runner over. And nobody did that. And Marte could have pinched it for any of these guys at the bottom of the order in that inning. And it just didn't happen. So
I think one of Marte's signature just dribbling ground balls would have got the runner over last night, and that's all you needed. But eventually, Francisco Alvarez came up, and you know what happened there. But it's about the principle, right? Hindsight's always 2020, but it's about the principle in that situation. When Young spot comes up in the lineup, at the minimum, you need to get the runner over, and it should have been simple for him too. I mean, a changeup that he was swinging over, all you have to do is just ground that ball to second baseman, and job's done. You're getting high fives in the dugout. You couldn't even do that. So, it's just situational hitting, man. It's just something that's eluded this team for quite some time now.
Yep, the issues we were talking about while they were winning, and I just don't get it. You know what? They weren't even throwing them strikes. Like, these pitches were all in the dirt. They were well off the plate, and like you could have not swung and had the bases loaded. Like, they didn't even throw strikes. Like, that's even more frustrating. Like, what they were going to throw you. Another reason why mental preparedness during an at-bat or going into an inning while you're coming to the plate, knowing that you've struggled with off-speed pitches and breaking ball pitches, they're not going to throw you a strike. They're not going to throw you a fastball over the plate. They're just not going to do that. You got to understand that. And that goes to hitting coaches, that goes to manager, that goes to a player on the team, a leader on this team, to say, hey, look what they're throwing you here. Be smart about it when you're at the plate. So again, this is an all-around team loss from top to bottom yesterday, and it needs to change today, because you lose today, you lose the series number one, and you're on the verge of getting swept by a team that can't even, they were digging their own grave, and you're giving them life back in the middle of June, very eerily similar to a couple of years ago. And that's the scary part. Not about the Mets, about making the playoffs, but having another team to worry about within your division going through the battle of the rest of the season, of the last remaining half of the games or half the season. That's the concerning part, Chris. So any final thoughts, and what else you got?
I just like to see Ron Mauricio. I know that, like, when you talk about Ronnie Mauricio, people are talking about how, he hasn't had as long to adjust as some of the other guys have gotten in terms of the time and the at-bats, et cetera, like Alvarez, Beatty, Vientos when he first came up, et cetera. I understand that. But at the minimum, we need to see Mauricio make adjustments. And that's the problem with what I have with Ronnie Mauricio right now, and the way that he's playing at the plate, is that he's not making adjustments. It'd be one thing if I see him trying to do things a little bit differently and approach at bats differently, but I'm not seeing that. He's still getting beat virtually the same way. So until I see a difference, then we got to call it out. So it's not about him getting out. It's about him not making the adjustment, which is also just leading to him getting out more frequently, like he has been. 13 of his last 38 at bats have been strikeouts. That's a 34% clip. Like, it's not, you can't, like, I understand that he needs more time, maybe, but I don't think the Mets, like you always say this too, the Mets being in the business of being a developmental team while trying to win as many games as possible is a really hard thing to accomplish. It's a really hard thing to accomplish. 100%. And I think that so far they've done a good job, and they're in a good space record-wise, given that fact. But that it cannot continue on for too long, because you get burned in the long run. So that's what I'll leave it at that. I'll leave it at that, essentially. Make the adjustments, shock us all, win this baseball game, and take the momentum back from the Braves and look to win a series tomorrow. That's all I got. I can't wait for game time. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, Acuna is not playing because of Jeff McNeil, right? It shouldn't be about development at the major league level. One thing that I agree with about Salicata on WFAN is that you don't develop guys at the major league level when you're a good team. You don't have time for that, right? When you're a contender, when you should be one of the best teams in baseball or a playoff contender, you don't have time for that, right? Unless there's a huge hole and this guy's a no-brainer, it's not worth the time of a team. Even though, like you said, Chris, they've done a good job, a good job. But when they all not performing well and nobody's took a stranglehold over that position or that job, you can't keep on rotating these guys in and out and keeping them on the roster when either other guys can get opportunities, or you can go get somebody or use somebody else on the roster or in the minor league system that you can bring up and see if they take the job. You got to figure it out, because there's too many holes in certain positions and in this lineup, specifically at the bottom of the order. And most of these guys, like Acuna, like Beatty, like Mauricio, and even Vientos, before he started to get a little bit better, before he got hurt, they were all in the bottom of the order. That's why we've been talking about another bat and the lack of production from the bottom of the order, except for Tyrone Taylor. So overall, somebody's got to step up. This team needs to figure it out today. I don't care how you do it. Everybody should be available today, Chris. Everybody in this bullpen. I don't care. Everybody. Diaz better be able to pitch today. I just don't care. He should have came out for a second inning, to be quite honest. The lack of innings that he's pitched and the lack that we used him over the last, I would say, week and a half, he should have pitched 2 innings yesterday. You got to win that game. Find a way to win that ball game. And overall, everybody should be available today. Fuck the matchups. Blackburn is what he is. Let's see if he surprises us. But everybody needs to do their job today. Do it well. Play a well-rounded game. You play a well-rounded game and limit or have no mistakes, it's clear that the Mets will win a ball game. Mistakes cost them yesterday. Limit the mistakes or have no mistakes and play a well-rounded baseball game. And I'm confident they can win because they've shown when they play good, solid ball with limited mistakes, they win ball games. And let's see if they can do it. So, guys, we got about an hour until game time. I'm not sure if it's raining in Atlanta. I know it was raining yesterday, but I don't think there's a post game today, Chris. Right?
No post game
Okay.
today. I don't think I can make it, unfortunately. I would love to do it, especially if the Mets win, but I just can't do it. Also, last thing for me, I wanted to say, look at the Braves lineup. Look who's hitting number 8 for them. That's Michael Harris
That's
III.
crazy.
Ozzy Albies is hitting 7. They moved up some guys like Verdugo, for example, to lengthen out their lineup.
Yep.
That's what they're doing. They're trying to mitigate a just abysmal bottom 3 in their lineup, right? Theoretically. I don't really know what the numbers. I know that Harris also hasn't really been good this season. He's hitting 232, 6 home runs. I get that, but we all know what he's been in his career so far. He's a damn good ball player. Ozzy Albies, same thing, 7-8. Guess what? A situation in the ball game where your 7, 8, 9 hitters are coming up, and you need to score a run in the the 10th inning, like the Mets did yesterday. I'm taking those 3. I don't even know who Allen is, but I'm taking Albies, Harris, Allen over what we had yesterday. And that's why you do that just right there. And that's what I wanted to say. So no post game. We'll see what happens today. Maybe I'll be available tomorrow. I do have a busy schedule tomorrow. We'll see what happens tomorrow, but maybe available for a stream tomorrow. But let's go get it done.
There you go, guys. So game 2 is upon us in about an hour, guys. Thank you for tuning into the Amazing Mets pregame show right here on the channel. Blackburn, Sale. Let's get that win, guys. Enjoy the game, and let's go Mets, guys. Have a good night.
Let's go Mets.
Seven train rumble, headed to the field. Orange and blue vibes, the energy revealed. Brooklyn to Queens, repping both hoods. Rob and CP, keep it fire misunderstood.